Hello and welcome to the Graphic 45 YouTube channel. My name is Lynn or LV Handcrafted, and today I am going to make a mini album using the Hello Pumpkin collection. I'm actually going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to use a pre-made album that you can get from Graphic 45. This is one of their interactive folio albums. It has all of these components that you can choose to use or not use, and you can attach them to your fully covered album base, the cover folio part, in whatever orientation or format you'd like. I'm actually going to kind of cheat a little bit, and I'm only going to use about half of what is provided so that I can save some of these components for maybe a second project. So let's get started. I am going to create some pockets for my front and back covers. So I've taken a piece of pattern paper from the Hello Pumpkin collection and I've trimmed it to 6 1/4 wide. And now along that 12-inch edge, I am making little pencil marks at 4 inches from the top on the left and 4 inches from the bottom on the right. And I then cut diagonally to connect those two pencil marks. This is a really simple folder, and what will happen is this will give you two folders that on the one side will be, and this is from the Patterns and Solids 12 by 12 paper pad, and so on the one side it'll be the more solid design. And to get the mirror of that, you're going to just have to flip to the back side, and that will give you the more patterned design that's showing. Then along the long edge, I will score at 1/2 inch, and along the bottom edge, I'll score at 1/2 inch as well. That will give me two glue tabs, and you can actually attach this in a couple different ways, but I'll show you how I did it and why I chose to do it that way. But I'll give you an alternative as well. So the corners here, I am just snipping off a sort of a eyeballing a 45-degree angle to miter those corners. That way when I fold those glue tabs back, I don't have a lot of excess paper that overlaps in the one corner where the two tabs would overlap. And as well, when those are folded in, if it's not perfectly straight in terms of your fold, you're less likely to see that, and so it makes for a neater finish in the end. Then I am going to cut down a bit of pattern paper to decorate the back of this folder or this pocket. So the height of the album itself measures 9 inches tall. That's the album height. So it just depends on what margins you'd like to leave, how much of the kind of that lovely vanilla cream color you want visible. I've cut my pattern paper to 8, and it ends up being roughly 8 3/4 inch and 5 3/4 inch wide. So 5 3/4 inch wide, and my pattern paper, I've explicitly cut it to 8 11/16, but I know a lot of people don't like to use 1/16 of an inch, so you can round that up or down if you'd like, and cut it to whatever margins you prefer. I will need two pieces, one for the front cover and one for the back cover of the folio. So this folio is going to be a trifold, so you'll have your inside front, which I will have one pocket. There's going to be a middle section of the trifold that will be sort of my star piece, and we'll get to that later. And then the inside back cover will have my second pocket. So for attaching your pocket, If you want to have a little bit more of a roomy pocket, you can attach this the way that I am about to, which is to fold the glue tabs, the two glue tabs in, and then attach this to the front or the top of your pattern paper, because then that's going to actually give it might be imperceptible, but essentially that gives you that extra glue tab as a bit of extra dimension. And if you're going to do this, I would recommend doing what I'm doing here, which is to just run a bit of Scotch tape over that bottom glue tab. The reason why I like to do that is because a lot of times when you're sticking things in, it gets caught up on that extra bit of cardstock and doesn't go all the way down into the pocket. It's only half an inch. It's not a big deal. And this is a large pocket. So how much of a difference that makes, to you is up to you. But that's the reason why I do it, to give myself that slightly nicer finish. The alternative is to actually wrap the glue tab to the back of the pattern paper, which is what you're looking at here. And that makes for a little bit of a neater finish in terms of the inside of the pocket, because then somebody peeking behind the pocket won't see the glue tabs. But it does, and it does actually, the one edge of the pocket is open, so I don't know that it buys you a ton of extra room doing it my way, but it's just something to consider. So there's always multiple ways to assemble any type of project, and I'd like to try to give you some options and some of the reasons why I make the choices that I make, but definitely do what works for your project. So in this case, I wanted the extra little gusset. It's not a proper gusset because there isn't an additional score line for that depth, but there is just that little bit of extra paper that helps to kind of give you a little bit more dimension there. So once those are assembled, I am going to run some liquid adhesive on the back of this panel. I did already line all of my panels with double-sided strong score tape, which I know to be acid-free and archival safe. I prefer to use that for all of my album making, and for my liquid adhesive, I prefer to use Lineco pH Neutral. It's a proper bookbinding PVA glue, and as well also acid-free and archival safe. So anytime I make mini albums or anything that I think might come in contact with photos, I try to use all acid-free, archival-safe products. So that takes care of my inside, front, and back cover. So I have some extra pockets there, which will be nice for storing any additional photos, keepsakes, things for memory keeping. And that's just a very easy little add-on so that I can sort of stretch the interactive components that came with the folio album base. And that way I can save some of those components for a second project. Now, I'm going to work on what I feel is sort of going to be my showcase piece. And that's this really cool flip out that is kind of a nice opportunity for presenting a showcase. Maybe you could even turn this into a deeper pocket because it is gusseted, and so it has it's built so that it can take some extra depth and thickness, whether that's maybe some additional design or decorations that you might want to apply with some foam adhesive, or if you want to create a deeper pocket, totally up to you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put the waterfall mechanism inside this flippy flappy component here, and I love that it folds out in both directions. One little adaptation I am going to add is I want something of a closure to this. So what I've done is I've taken out a die set from Graphic 45, and this one has a die that will allow you to create a policy envelope style closure. It's really just a circular die. This one happens to be a little bit shaped. It's got a little bit of a scalloped border to it. And I'm going to die cut it several times, 4 to be exact, out of some of that beautiful patterns and solid paper. And I'm going to glue or stack 2 of these together. And in fact, just in retrospect, I think I might have done like a 3rd layer just to really make this a very sturdy piece, almost like a bit of chipboard. 3 layers might have been the way to go, if not more. I went with just 2, and it's holding up okay just now, but over time, I just don't know how sturdy that will be over time. The idea is that you're going to be, or at least the way I'm using it, I'll be wrapping some twine around this as a closure to keep the top and bottom flaps closed until somebody wants to actually open it up. So this is good, especially if you're designing this to actually hold loose papers or loose photos. That way it's secured. If the album, drops or pops open, it's not just going to all spill out. I am not designing this to be a closure for or a pocket for loose items, but I still like the look of it. I like having it be just another little bit of interaction that you need to do to actually open it up and have this reveal. Now, to attach this, all I am going to do is center where I would want the top and bottom closure piece, and using a sharp pokey tool, piercing tool, I've just poked a hole. Then I've got some gold. These are mini brads, and they are really probably the easiest way to attach these. And all I'll do is get some twine that is in a complementary color. I've fed that, or I'm gonna feed that through the hole. And this is the pattern paper that I'm using to decorate that top flap, and I'll do the same on the bottom flap as well, with the exception of this twine part here. So once I've got the twine fed through to the back of this panel, I'm just going to use a bit of Scotch tape to hold it firm. And this is a twisted twine, so it's 2 different colors that are twisted together. And what I did to actually just make it a little bit more flat is separate those 2 colors, or the 2 threads that are twisted together, and tape them down. That way you don't have like one big or thick bit of twine on the back. It's flattened a little bit, helps to distribute that thickness a little bit. And then all I do is then poke my brad through that circular piece, through my pattern paper, and then I close the clasp on the back. Now on the bottom one, all I do is just feed my brad through that circular bit that I die cut, feed that through my pattern paper, and close the clasp on the back. What you want to do on this bottom piece, though, is don't close it down super tightly to where that circle piece is flush or flat against your pattern paper, because the twine actually needs to loop behind that circular piece. So you want to give enough room so that you can get, maybe a couple of rounds of your twine around that closure piece. Now, I would recommend don't attach this just yet. I'm doing it now because I was just excited to see it come together. But I would recommend waiting to attach this until after you've decorated the inside. And the reason for that is because of that brad. with the brad and the twine there, it makes it a little bit more tricky to burnish your adhesive when you go to decorate the backside, if you choose to decorate the backside. So I would wait until I've go ahead and decorate the inside of that flap first, so that you can give it a nice strong burnish, and while it's still nice and flat, then add this afterwards, and it's going to be much easier to burnish. So that's our closure. It's just something, again, a little bit of extra detail to kind of elevate some of these pre-made components, which is nice because the core of these components is already done for you. So just taking a little bit of extra time to do a couple of special things here and there, I feel still makes this a very quick and easy project, but then it also personalizes the album to you, and I always love that. So now with the decorations on the inside, this panel here, so the two panels are actually different widths between the left and the right. I've cut my pattern paper on the right side to 5 inches wide, and that was on the left side. On the right side, I've cut it to 4 7/8. You could go 5 inches if you wanted, but it's just very slightly more narrow. That's what I found. And so those were the measurements that I used, but feel free, again, just all depends on the look and feel that you're going for and how much of that album base you want showing. And in terms of the height, I cut my pattern paper to 8 1/4. So those are the two large panels. And then on the smaller panels, those have been cut to 5 1/4 wide by 4 1/4 tall. So that gets you those 4 flaps. And then with the waterfall mechanism that I'm working on now, this, the pumpkin, welcome to the pumpkin patch, that's a cut apart from one of the 12 by 12 pattern papers. So that fit really lovely. It's a 4 by 6 cut apart, and it gives you an idea, actually, if you were to just use this straight with 4 by 6 photos, you know, how much of a mat you would see in terms of that, the base of the waterfall. But what I went ahead and did is I did add some additional pattern paper to each of these waterfall flaps, and each of my pattern papers is 4 1/4 wide by 6 1/4 tall. So with the pattern papers that I'm adding now, that's still slightly larger than a 4 by 6 photo. So if the recipient of this album wanted to put 4 by 6 photos in here, they still could, and they would see a little bit of that pattern paper. But then it'll look nice if they were using smaller photos, like 3 by 4 photos, and that way they'll have more of that pattern paper showing. So I've gone ahead and decorated ends up being 4 flaps, but then there's actually a 5th flap that gets glued to the bottom. And I did trim off about 1/2 inch from that very last flap. That's so that all this entire unit will actually fit inside of this kind of fold out a little bit more freely, because it was a very, very snug fit otherwise. So that last flap, I did actually trim off 1/2 inch to get that to fit. I don't think I showed that on camera. And then all I had to do is just glue that into the back of this fold out unit here. And that unit is basically completed, and then just needs to be added to the album base. So I've got that done, and the next thing that I'll do is actually decorate some of the pockets. What comes included in the interactive folio album is 2 sets of pockets that are different sizes. So that's kind of cool. You can use them all if you want. So in total, there would be 4. Or you can just pick and choose the ones that you want to use. And I've just got some extra pattern paper here to decorate the outside of my flaps here. I was focusing on the inside of my showcase piece, but these 2 bits of pattern paper, they're cut to the same dimensions. One is 5 inches wide, that goes on the left flap, and the other is 4 7/8 wide. Both of them are 8 1/4 tall. And I'll decorate those go on the outsides of the flap. I love the colors of this collection. It's just gorgeous, beautiful colors. I really, really love that purple kind of plum color that is just a little bit something different for fall, and I love it. It's a bit of something that's a little bit unexpected for me anyways. I don't often see that sort of purplish color, but it works beautifully. So I love the inclusion of that. So I've got those in, and then the last bit of pattern paper that I have this is the piece that I would recommend adhering first before you do the part with the policy envelope closure, if that's what you're choosing to do. That way you don't have that brad to contend with as you are burnishing. And the reason why I burnish is because adhesives have different properties. There's good reasons to burnish regardless of what adhesives you use. If you're using a double-sided dry adhesive, it's a good idea to burnish because in some climates, that dry adhesive can actually dry out completely and lose its stickiness because of exposure to air. When you burnish, though, you are essentially pushing as much air out so that the 2 pieces of materials that you're gluing together come in as close a contact as possible, and it reduces the air that might get trapped in there. If you are using a liquid adhesive, and in particular, if you're using it on papers that might be susceptible to warping, which graphic 45 paper I've never had an issue with, but by burnishing a liquid adhesive, it actually helps to really spread that glue out into a really nice thin layer so that it doesn't create glue lines. And potentially either have those glue lines be visible on your paper or cause any warping with your papers. I've never found that to be the case with graphic 45 papers, but I still burnish all the same because I think it does help to spread that glue out and helps to just adhere, the 2 pieces of material much more securely. So as I was mentioning with the pockets, there are 2 different size pockets, and on the larger pocket, I've cut some pattern papers to decorate the front and the back. I've cut it to 5 1/4 wide by 8 1/4 tall, and I used on the larger pocket. Well, here's an interesting thing. So the larger pocket has a smaller diameter thumb notch than the smaller pocket, which I found curious. So on that larger pocket, I used and it's not exactly matching the curve, but what I used, because that's what I had, was a 1-inch diameter circle punch to notch try to mimic that same notch, circle notch from the top of my pattern paper. That way, as I adhere this paper onto the pocket, it doesn't obstruct that thumb notch, which is nice so that you can actually, pull the contents of whatever is in this pocket out easily. And I just find it curious. I'm not sure why the thumb notches aren't the same size, and I'm not sure why, if anything, it's not the reverse where the larger pocket has the larger thumb notch and the smaller pocket has the smaller thumb notch. But you'll maybe notice as I go to put the smaller pocket in that it has a different size thumb notch. So it's really easy to adhere this into your folio. There is a glue tab that is already built into that pocket. And all I do is, again, use a combination of double-sided dry adhesive as well as a line or two of liquid adhesive. And I've positioned it onto one of these spines of our folio in such a way that I can actually fit the small pocket on that same spine. So you do get a second set of both of these pockets. So you could in total have 4 of these pockets in your folio. I'm just saving the other 4, and as well I'm saving the other waterfall mechanism for another project because why not? That way I can stretch my supplies a little bit. I've added some pockets to my front and back covers, so that does give me some extra storage. And to decorate the smaller pocket, I am just going to use some more of the cut aparts from one of the 12 by 12 pattern paper designs that comes in the collection pack. And that way I don't have to worry about the thumb notch. It works out perfectly to just frame this just below the thumb notch. And again, I'm going to just put a little bit of double-sided dry adhesive on that glue tab, as well as some liquid adhesive. The reason why I use both is because of the potential for double-sided dry adhesive to completely dry out and lose its stickiness. But then by adding a bit of liquid adhesive, you really make it into a nice, strong, permanent bond. Now, the last thing to decorate is the outside of the folio. I'm going to keep this really simple, as is sort of my preference, but you could definitely go to town and do a lot more decorating if you'd like. You could even, if you have a big bite, you could even maybe punch a hole into one of the spines and add a charm. That would be really fun. I am just going to add a bit of pattern paper to the front cover. And this one I have cut to 8 3/4 of an inch tall by 5 3/4 wide. And again, I'm going to use one of those cut aparts, which is roughly, I think it's 4 by 6. And I'm going to use that as the focal kind of image or element to my front cover. And then when you open that first flap, there's going to be this panel as well, which I also want to decorate with a bit of pattern paper cut to the same size. So I've cut mine to 5 3/4 by 8 3/4, and the magnet is pretty strong. So even with the extra cardstock that I have of my pocket, the magnet will still hold. If you were at all concerned that the magnet wouldn't, you could always try to add another set of magnets below this bit of pattern paper and below the inside pocket inside cover decorations. So that's an option as well. And then I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to decorate the spines or the back of this because that's sort of my preference. I like to kind of keep things nice and simple on the outside, and leave all of the like really fun, interactive, interesting bits to the inside, which is where I think viewers and people who are going to be interacting with the album, hopefully they'll spend most of their time on the inside. So I do like to kind of put a little bit more there, but also try to leave enough space for people to add photos, for them to add journaling notes or captions. So there's lots of opportunities to kind of still personalize this with your own memory keeping. And that way, it looks beautiful on its own if it's not fully decorated or filled with photos yet, but there's still lots of opportunities to kind of customize it. So I love the making these extra little details like this policy envelope closure, like our front and back pockets, and that way I can save the other bits and have a second project. So I will, when I craft and make that second project, I'll post it to my channel if you'd like to check that out. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope you'll consider subscribing to the Graphic 45 channel so that you can get more inspiration from the rest of the team members who also share projects to this channel. Thank you again, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye!